Morning. Oh, well, only just. Well, actually, it's not. It's just gone 12 o'clock. We're on our way to Sobibor. Sobibor is miles from anywhere. There's no real town or anything. We've been driving through a big wooded area. Which was nearly 7 kilometres of a road like this to get us to it. So it was a well-hidden concentration camp. Christine's had a warning come through on the phone telling us that to not go anywhere near the Belarusian border between Belarus and Poland. There's a possibility you get shot at. So we're a little bit south of that. Not very far south, but we are south of it. We'll be doing Sobibor, and then
I didn't see that. That's the warning.
Christine's showing the warning that's just come through for us. I don't know if you had a chance to read that. You maybe have to pause the video.
Kind of scary that people know where you are. I don't even know who it is.
We'll have got that come through because the GPS will tell you where you are from your phone and things like that. So we've got that information. This is the main road to Sobibor. There's not much we can do about that. Although when that text came through about 10 minutes ago, it's very unnerving.
Yes.
I think is
intensive term,
yeah, is not what we expected at all.
No.
Still, we'll see. Not far away now, about 5 kilometres. What's this sign say? No, that's somewhere different. That's half a mile somewhere else. Turn it on. Alright. I was going to turn the video off, but I think Christine wants it leaving on, so if anybody shoots us,
I've got proof.
we've got some video footage. I don't know. But I think we're far enough south. The border that we're nearest to is actually the Ukrainian border. We're pretty close to that. Doesn't make it any better,
Nope.
to be fair, but better than being near the Belarusian border, I suppose.
Well, I think it's in there, isn't it?
This must be about the nearest town, village, Sobibor. Nervy time for the people that live here as well, because they are pretty close to the border and it is a forest area, so I'm presuming it's easier to infiltrate countries.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live here.
were going to try and get to the 3 points where all the border for all the countries meets.
No.
We couldn't. We had looked at the map yesterday. We can't get there anyway.
Oh,
But
well,
we're
anyway.
definitely not going there now. I think this will be about as close to the border as we'll actually come. I don't think it's much of a tourist spot either, because I mean the road is out of all the roads we've driven in Poland, this is by far the worst. So should be there in a couple of minutes now. It's about a mile away, just over a mile, 1.8 kilometres.
When you went to Russian border, did they?
No, we went near the Russian border. But that was a town, wasn't it?
Hey?
That was a town. And Russia wasn't an area where trouble was expected. We have to remember that we're quite close to Ukraine. Poland is a country that is possibly or was under Soviet rule. Possibly a country they would like. Belarus is under the control of Russia, even though I don't think they would admit to that, but I think they're leaving as a puppet to Putin. I'm half expecting some soldiers to jump out in front
I am,
of us
stop us.
and stop us.
Yeah, I am.
And turn us round. I am half expecting that.
I don't think we'll be able to go any Sobibor.
We'll see. But of all the time we've been away and whatever, this is the most worrying,
Yes.
strangest feeling that we've ever had. We watched a video once, not so long back, 7 or 8 months ago, and it was a fella who was up at the border with Russia and in Finland, yeah. And he got to the point where it near like a no man's land point. Oh, there is somebody else that's been there. It's like a no man's land type point, and then he got shooting, didn't he?
Yeah.
There was shooting going on between on the border. So we do you park on here or do you travel further? Oh, there is parking here. It's quite a big.
In 200 meters, your destination will be on the right.
Park in the park.
Yeah, we'll go to the car park. Actually, it turns out I think a little bit safer than what we thought. Still, you never know. You never know.
Your destination is on the right.
That must have been the old railway
Yeah.
sign.
Looks big eye heat. Stop there. There. I think stop. And here we are.
Yeah, and here we are. Okay, we just had a spot of lunch. I've had the same warning as what Christine's had now, about being near the border, so we both had that. basically telling you not to stay in the area and you have to leave the area, which we will be doing once with we will be doing once with being on here.
United?
No,
City.
Sheffield Wednesday.
Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah.
Oh
Football's rubbish. Football's rubbish, don't like football.
no. Liverpool.
No.
First Sobibor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That way?
Today museum room exhibition. Today no closed.
Oh,
Okay.
Only
Grand.
yes.
Grand. Okay.
when is it open?
That way?
Tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow. Sorry.
Okay.
Wednesday, Monday, yeah, Wednesday.
So not tomorrow.
New museum closed. Everybody.
So,
Wednesday, Monday, Saturday,
yeah.
Ah, some
Okay.
Tuesday,
yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
We go that way?
Yes.
Is that way? Fantastic.
You can hang around.
Thank you.
Manchester City. Sheffield Wednesday.
Yes, the best.
We're hanging around till tomorrow.
Okay. You can't in the area, it means you've got to drive inland and then come back, but that'll be for the museum bits inside. I have no idea. We'll have a look and see what we've got. So apparently it's only open for the museum Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, something like that. So we can walk the grounds, but how much of that we can see, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know what there is to see. All we really know about this place is from a film which was called Escape from Sobibor, which is a true story. I can tell you that this place is miles and miles from civilization, really. There's very, very few people live near here, so I suppose it'd be easier to be quite secretive about what you're up to. However, there was a big escape, a mass escape from Sobibor, and I think that's what probably makes it that little bit more famous. But all the concentration camps that we know of are marked in some way or another, aren't they?
Yeah.
We even went to a real tiny one, didn't we? That was quite a good memorial when we was in Germany. Anyway, I'm assuming that this bit is what would have been the outer wall. I don't know. It's not really giving us any information, is it? Yet. Yeah, there are bits of information, and it says Barber's Barracks. The reception of the transport took place in a part of the camp without buildings and warehouses of the victims' plundered property. The tube also began there. It was a path marked out with barbed wire fences along which the camp crew led the victims to the gas chambers in front of them. There was a barracks where women had their hair cut just before being killed. And then there's a statement here from somebody, and it says, it was done quickly with a few nervous clips of the scissors. Visibly embarrassed, the young girls sometimes begged the barbers not to cut too short. They were certain a shower would follow. A German who stood in the middle of the room with whip in hand supervised and made sure the barbers did not speak to the victims. So I suppose the barbers were other, what do you call them, concentration camp guests. So they were led from here. I mean, where we're parked is pretty much where the railway bit is. So unless there was another part to it that came round here, and then they were led into here, which is this big room where they had their hair cut, nobody was allowed to talk to them, and then they were led to the gas chambers, which then, if that's what that symbolises, the pathway there, this pathway, then that should be over here. So I'll read what it says first. It says, remains of the gas chambers. The brick buildings of the gas chambers in which the German murdered the victims transported into Sobibor with exhaust gases was built in a tightly separated zone called Lager 3 or Camp 3. In order to cover up the traces of the crimes committed, it was blown up during the liquidation of the extermination camp completed in December 1943. Then there's a statement from Jules Chevlis, and it says, separated from Lager 3 by a distance of 300 metres and under the constant watchful eye of the SS of Lager 1, were not exactly sure of what went on in Lager 3. They would have heard the agonising cries and screams of the victims. They also caught glimpses through holes in the fence of naked people going through the tube. And that this is pretty much what's I think nearly all that's left. I'm not really sure what they mean by the tube. So this must be marking the shapes of the building. They've tried to keep the, I mean, if it was all blown up, wouldn't have been much left. So I presume what they've done is they've marked it all out. And then there's some more of what's left of the original wall. Not too much to see, to be fair. So the camp was pretty much totally destroyed then. I'm presuming these the oh, excuse me, pardon? Whose? Alright. There we go, done what I was asked. The concrete walls must mark the outer walls of the camp itself. There's a mound there in the middle, which I'm assuming this is where all of the barracks where people stayed were. Oh, it says graves with the victims' ashes. From May to autumn 1942, the bodies of the murdered were buried in vast pits dug within Lager 3. Later, the prisoners held in Camp 3 had to burn them in the same places on gratings made of rails. And then there's a statement by Adolf Freiberg, and it says, after some time the air around us was filled with a terrible smell of rotting burning flesh and thick black smoke wafting over to us from Lager 3, covering the sky. As it turned out, the camp commandant had received instructions to exhume the remains that had been buried in the great pit and to burn them, grind the bones and scatter the ashes. Wow, so at some point then they were trying to cover up everything that they'd done here, so and I'm wondering if that's what's to do with that mound there. Possibly. It doesn't really give us any more information about that. It was a big camp, I must admit. It seems to have been a big camp. Don't want to change your camera there because mine's overheated, so I'm on Christine's now. Residential barracks for prisoners from the Special Commando Unit. Prisoners forced to work on emptying the gas chambers were accommodated in their vicinity in the summer of 1943. They dug a tunnel through which they intended to escape under the wires of Camp 3. However, the tunnel was discovered, and in retaliation everyone was shot by the Camp SS. There's a statement by Kurt Ticho, and it says, ultimately we found out that after working for short periods, the men in this contingent were killed periodically and replaced by others selected from the next transport. We discovered that a group was dead when the order came to stop cooking for them. What happened frequently, nobody who worked in Camp 3 at Sobibor survived to tell his story. Wow. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe this was the tunnel, being as it's in a different colour, possibly, but I don't know. It's quite vague on what it's actually telling you, but it wouldn't be surprised because that does head off towards the woods. It's just that there's this break in between, so I don't know, maybe this is where it collapsed and that's how the tunnel was discovered, but it definitely starts from this part. So this is the part where those that had to take the bodies out of the gas chamber, they were all within this coloured square here. The gas chambers are just over there, so they were really close to it. These took them out, disposed of the bodies. They were kept away from anybody else over on other parts of the camp. And then every now and again they'd shoot a few of them and get some new ones off the transport. But they were definitely kept separate from any of the other prisoners. Basically, I suppose, so they can't tell the tale or the story. And nobody who was in this part or whoever came to this part survived, not one person. So it's difficult to get a proper story of what that was or what happened. What was that saying? Okay, we can't go into this area. As you can see, it says no entry, area of mass graves. So when they were living and doing whatever they were doing in there, and these people that lived in this part were taking those from that part, which is where the gas chambers were, they'd be bringing them this way and taking them into here and then burying them in pits. And then later they were told to exhume everything out of there and everything had to be burnt. But obviously there are still graves in this area. How many? I would think it's thousands as opposed to just a few. We'll get back on the path again because I did get moaned at for walking on the grass.
Did you?
I did.
I think I will get told off, but I just ignored him.
Well, there you go, it's Christine. I think I was getting told off, she says, but I just ignored him.
I said something.
Wow. So that I think is pretty much the camp here at Sobibor. There's not a lot about the people or much more about them. There are along this road, we've just noticed these memorials, so in memory of my family. Yeah, family beak. I think one of the reasons that there's stones is because I do believe that in memory for Jewish people, a tradition is to put a stone on the grave. So I'm presuming this is a very similar representation and memory. There's a fair few stones that are stacked here. This is the area where all the graves are. So I'm assuming that's why we're seeing them down this avenue and here. Maybe this footpath that we're walking through now actually takes you through the middle of it all. So I mean, all within this wooded area would be full of graves. Yeah, that one's had the plaque missing. Yeah, strange that.
Quite a lot, but say a family.
Yeah. Very strange that, because these must be dates when someone were born
Yeah, I think it must have been.
and then died in Sobibor,
Yeah.
9th of the 4th. So they're probably the age when they were all born at the top, and then underneath the date when they were. I think somebody was moved to Auschwitz.
Yeah, it's right, so.
Yeah. I wonder if when they were moving you to another camp, you felt lucky. You know, oh God, I haven't got to stay here.
Oh, okay.
And well, I presume if you were here or Auschwitz or one of the other camps, it must have been like the worst place on earth. From what you had to what you have now, and then you get shifted. You must be thinking, oh, I've survived it, I've you know. So this must have, you know, when they were close to, because in 1944 here, because we're pretty close to what is Ukrainian and Belarusian border, which is Russian territory. So Russia would have been moving back in to sweep across Poland and then into Germany, because I know the war ended in 1945, but ultimately it was Russia that had got to Berlin first. So 1944, I mean, this is being right as it's right over on the eastern part. It must have been a yeah. Yeah, and there's one with the flower already on it, and a pebble placed on top as well.
Long day for two groups coming.
Yeah, they're all no disrespect, but they're all old codgers. So, you know, I mean, I presume, I mean, these people could have quite easily have had, these people could have quite easily have had relatives that would have been here. You know, I presume like parents, that sort of thing, or grandparents. And I mean, I know, I mean, there's some of them have got several names listed on their whole families that were, I don't know, I don't even suppose you can use words like slain as too harsh. Yeah, she obviously don't care much. So yeah, there is a museum. What's in the museum, we have no idea. We're going to have a little bit of a think about whether we pretty much hang around, obviously not here near the border, case we get shot. Yeah. I'd have stayed if it was just Christine's life in danger, but it's not mine as well. Very strange text to have. Very, very strange. I mean, I hope you could read it that was on there. In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll read it. I'll actually read it to you. Christine's got it. We've both had this text. And it says, warning, ban on staying in the Polish area near the Belarus border. Unauthorised crossing is forbidden. Soldiers may use weapons. Turn back immediately. Is what we're getting. So
Finish?
Here's a question. We might stay around till tomorrow.
There's a monument just outside. We can't visit inside the museum. We're not sure exactly what's in there. The guard speaks poor English, but I'm guessing this is just on the outside of the museum. It's yeah, there are artifacts, look. You see? Yeah, they're artifacts, things that were found here. So things that would have been discarded, it seems to be. Right, that's the car park. People would have been escorted down that or across into the thing. The railway station, we think, it's difficult to tell, but we actually think is here. What makes me think it's here is it's the end of the line. There are flowers marking the end of the line where the buffers are, and we think this is the platform. So we'll take a walk onto the platform. So everybody that came, or pretty much everybody who came here to Sobibor, would have come by train in the cattle cars and such like, and the train would have pulled up here. So it had been diverted off the line further up, and then out of the cattle cars onto this platform, and then led over there into the camp. I'll just check that because I think Christine's was just reading something, so I will go over and read it. I'm just going to go read it now. So yeah, it is about the trains. Well, Christine says kind of. Don't really know what that means as a statement, but I'll have a read on the board and see what that has to say. There seems to be very little information about Sobibor. So it says ramp to camp. Trains with those deported to SS Sonderkommando Sobibor stopped at the railway station. From that point, the wagons were rolled onto a siding located inside the camp and hidden behind a fence masked by branches. The unloading ramp was adjacent to the track. So it was there, but there was a fence that was up, so nobody from the other side where the other train tracks are could see anything. So they wouldn't have been able to see in, wouldn't be able to see what was going on. There is a statement from Kalman Wick. We saw the SS standing with whips in their hands. Near them were Ukrainians with the whips too, and Jewish kapos. A German bellowed, Aussteigen von den Wagen, exit from the wagons, and people started to jump out of the wagons. They were petrified with fear. So that is definitely where they came in. So there was a fence just the other side of the line, so anybody who was looking in or from that other side wouldn't have been able to see what was going on at all. And it makes this a very, very private place. Auschwitz, near a town, they move people out, that kind of thing. This is in the middle of nowhere. Nobody would have known what was going on. I mean, some houses here now, well, a couple of houses, but there wouldn't have been anything. A little bit of information that I found out about Sobibor, so I'll read it now while we're here. It's put, as an extermination camp rather than a concentration camp, Sobibor existed for the sole purpose of murdering Jews. The vast majority of prisoners were gassed within hours of arrival. Those not killed immediately were forced to assist in the operation of the camp, and few survived more than a few months. In total, some 170,000 to 250,000 people were murdered at Sobibor, making it the fourth deadliest Nazi camp after Auschwitz, Treblinka and Belzec. The camp ceased operation after a prisoner revolt which took place on the 14th of October 1943. The plan for the revolt involved two phases. In the first phase, teams of prisoners were to discreetly assassinate each of the SS officers. In the second phase, all 600 prisoners would assemble for evening roll call and walk to freedom out the front gate. However, the plan was disrupted after only 11 SS men had been killed. The prisoners had to escape by climbing over barbed wire fences and running through a minefield under heavy machine gun fire. About 300 prisoners made it out of the camp, of whom roughly 60 survived the war. After the revolt, the Nazis demolished most of the camp in order to hide their crimes from the advancing Red Army. In the first decades after World War II, the site was neglected and the camp had little presence in either popular or scholarly accounts of the Holocaust. It became better known after it was portrayed in the TV miniseries Holocaust 1978 and the film Escape from Sobibor 1987. The Sobibor Museum now stands at the site, which continues to be investigated by archaeologists. Photographs of the camping operation were published in 2020 as part of the Sobibor Perpetrator album. So it was a little bit about the camp. So it was largely forgotten and nobody really wanted to know until recently, and I suppose it's because where it is, and you know, the Germans try to destroy everything and cover it up. So the museum keeps looking for artifacts and things that are around here and in this area, and they're displayed within this building. The question we've got to ask ourselves, Christine and I, is are we going to hang around for what is in effect 24 hours? We can't stay here because we're too close to the border, and we've been told it's a dangerous place for us to be. So it means there's driving away somewhere, how far I don't know, and then coming back to have a look at those artifacts. We just need to think about whether that's something that we're going to do. I've just seen some more information that's down on a board down here, so we'll take a bit of a walk to it and see what that is. Can you lock the van? Now there's a bit of a road from the railway side in there that brings us down here, and there is some sort of memorial on this point. So it kind of leads me to think, is that what is that? That seems to be separate to the camp. So the camp walls, from what I'm kind of gathering, are these concrete wall that's been placed around there. That goes pretty much completely around the camp itself. There's a little walkway to this square. I'm going to have a stab in the dark and say this is something to do with the commandant's residence or something like that. Something to do with where the Germans were quartered, but I'm just guessing, and that's purely because it's not inside the camp. Oh, actually, no. Then that can't signify the outer walls of the camp. Maybe that wall then signifies where all like protecting the area where all the graves are, and the camp actually stretches even further, because this states uprising starting point, the area of the former prison camp Lager 1 where the mass escape of prisoners of the German extermination camp in Sobibor began, with an attack on the main gate and the barbed wire fence on October the 14th 1943 at around 5 p.m. And there's a statement from Moschbach here, and it says, "We were certain that experience had taught each of them that only one last option remained to us. That was the way of revolt. I am certain that not one of them had even dreamt that the revolt could be successful. It was their desire to die as heroes, to wreak revenge for what is the worth." So I think they felt that they weren't going to survive anyway, and that we're here, and this is where it all started. So I'm assuming then that either this is where the gate and everything must have been over this point somewhere, or this is where it started, and from there they crossed land that had got mines in it and machine gun fire and all sorts. So actually that's kind of surprised me a bit, that how spread out the camp was. I actually thought that it was all within those walls over there, but that can't be true. We're leaving Sobibor now, and I must admit I was relieved when we got there, and there was a couple of other cars there and other people, and then the coach load of people, because getting them texts is quite unnerving. Anyway, the main road for us to get to what is called the Mountain of Crosses,
Yeah.
to a place called the definitely, after the mass escape, and also with the Russians advancing, the camp was destroyed by the Germans. They tried to destroy everything about it. So that's why it was blown up, that's why there's not a lot left. And then after the war, nobody seemed to be that interested in it. It was just left to overgrow and whatever for many years until it was rediscovered again. So I think they're still finding things there. However, I don't think there's enough to bring us back for a second look. We were heading for the Mountain of Crosses, or the Holy Mountain, they call it. But we've since found out that within 50 kilometres of the border, is it?
You're not insured.
You're not insured. So we're told not to be within 50 kilometres of the border, simply because I think within 25 kilometres of the border on the Ukrainian side, the Russians have been bombing. There's military all over as well, we noticed as we started to head north. We decided to double check on what our government website says about travel, because that affects your insurance. And it says within 50 kilometres. Well, if we'd have gone to that Mountain of Crosses, we'd have been within 15 kilometres?
19k.
19 kilometres of the border, and where we've just been, we're within about 5 kilometres of the border, and so we shouldn't have really gone there. However, we did. It's done. We're not going back to have a look at the museum either. They're just too close to the border. We did notice as well that when we were coming and starting to head in the direction of the crosses, we started to come across quite I wouldn't say a large military presence. You know, you weren't seeing lots of trucks, but there was definitely a military presence with army trucks stationed at different places, with soldiers with weapons and all sorts, weren't they? So they're definitely worried around this area.
Yeah.
So we've decided to beat a retreat.
Yeah.
So we're actually heading for Warsaw now. That's about a 3-hour drive, so we're not going to get there until what's going to be tea today. We'll do 2 nights in Warsaw, so we won't get to see Warsaw today. We will get a full